Hello, and thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation. My name is Paul Wittle, and I'm going to be representing a presentation I did at Phosphagy UK in Leeds this year that wasn't recorded, and this is just for the benefit of anyone who wants to see the presentation but was unable to join us at the event. So a little bit about myself first. So I started out working with GIS my whole career really. Started when I was doing environmental science at University in Wales. Spent some time working as a consultant, working with GIS and transport modelling, before moving to what was then the Dorset County Council, is now Dorset Council, working in the GIS team. In recent years, we've been working hard as part of a team of about 4 or 5 developers, moved into the IT department as part of our open source web development function. So Dorset Council is located on the south coast of England and is home to what has become known as the Jurassic Coast. So here you can see a little map zooming in on that, so you can see where we are based. And many years ago, the council was set up um, when we had districts. So we were a county council at the time, so there were various districts that were part of our region, and we needed to work closely with those. So we set up a GeoEssex partnership, and it was under that partnership that we developed many of our geospatial apps, such as DorsetExplorer, our flood reporting tools, our countryside tools, various tools that we're going to mention really were set up back then when we were a county council. But as I mentioned, we're now a unitary, so there are no longer any district councils and the partnership is not really needed. So what we have decided to do is to build on the foundation of working together, but obviously without the need for a partnership, we've decided to adopt an open source method, as it were, to share. So what we're doing is we're trying to convert the solutions that we are using here at the council into open solutions that we can share with other councils and, where appropriate, with people outside of the public sector as well. We did a talk a couple of years back now. We did one, well, quite a few years ago. I did one at QGIS user group talking about our work to migrate users from proprietary GIS solutions to open source GIS ones, particularly QGIS. And we talked about our intention to release DorsetExplorer, which is our internal web mapping tool, as GIFramework Maps at a Phosphagy UK event that we helped to organise in Southampton. Since then, we have been busy. We have published GIFramework Maps in October 24. We have also released something called the GDS Blazor components, which we'll mention. That was in July 2025. We've also recently released an alpha version of our flood online reporting tool. Our main one that is still in use is not currently open source, and I'll explain why as we go through the presentation. And most recently, we've released Mosaic Builder as a QGIS plugin, which is available for anyone to go and find via QGIS. So do take a look at our GitHub page, which is on screen at the moment, and come and find us there to find out what we're releasing and to see more about what we're up to. So let's start with the obvious ones. Why would we use open source? As I said, we wanted to do it partly because we wanted to continue to be open and work in partnership with other people. But the obvious one for any council and any public sector organisation at the moment, of course, is financial pressures. So open source can help to deliver us with some financial savings, but we're aware that it's not a magic wand and that you need to invest into it. So we're trying to deliver some of our applications open source for others to use, and taking part in the open source community. Secondly, we wanted to provide the opportunity for others to work with us in ways that build consistency but still allow people to do their own things. Open source is really great for that because you can branch away from someone else's project and you can do your own thing with it, and yet at the same time kind of work together on it. So that can be really good for sort of collaborative working. And finally, we mentioned this in our previous one in Southampton. As a team, we felt that there was a bit of a gap in the open source software market for the .NET-based web mapping solutions. So this is the Microsofty languages, which are open source, but obviously perhaps not as popular with some of the standard development sort of projects that you see out there in the open area. So we felt that it would be really good to get a couple of .NET ones out there, and that's why GIFramework Maps is what it is really. And again, I'll explain more when we get to that slide. And we're at that slide now. So GIFramework Maps. So this is our browser-based web mapping application. It was built on a tool that we call DorsetExplorer, and that's still what we call our in-house version of this. This is basically how we deliver web maps on our council website. And we wanted to make this one open source. So Dorset Explorer has been running in production. Dorset Explorer, based on GIFramework Maps, has now been running in production for 2 years, with over 500,000 page views per year. It's used internally by colleagues and also by members of the public. And as you can sort of see from the screenshot on there, we've built it to have the same look and feel as the Dorset Explorer because that's what our users told us they liked, really. We didn't particularly want to shift between different applications, but we do accept that there are some good applications out there. And as I mentioned on the previous slide, one of the main drivers for this was that we use a lot of Microsoft products in a council, as is quite common, and we wanted to ensure that this application was a Microsoft-based application that fits well with the infrastructure and the software choices that the council are using. And under the hood, we're still using many other open source products like GeoServer, which we're using to provide the base maps and things like that. So it's kind of a bit of a mixed bag there, but we're kind of doing at least one thing that's Microsoft and on a Microsoft server. So since the launch, we've run a session at the Code by the Coast Code Sprint, which we helped to organise here on the South Coast in Dorset. And this was really great because we had various people come and join us from different places, and it was fantastic to meet different people from different parts of the country, and they got us thinking about things like supporting different languages, because a lot of the people that came to join us on that particular day came from Wales, and obviously they need to make sure that everything is written in Welsh if they're going to use it in Wales. So that was really great, and just goes to show how working together helps you to think about things that maybe you hadn't thought about or weren't a priority to you, and that's one of the massive advantages of working in an open source way. The picture that's on screen shows various tables, so there were people working on other projects there as well. It was a really great event, so thank you to those that came. We also started the process of registering to become an OSGeo community project, and I've put the URL on screen for our project page. We haven't really progressed that too far at the moment, because what we really want to do is build a bigger community of people using the application and contributing to it before we progress that further. So if you want to get involved with the project and deploy GIFramework Maps, please do get in touch. Talking about the community, we have had some exciting news, which is that a few people have actually started to use it, and this I think is kind of where open source really gets great, is when you start getting people contacting you and saying we're using your application in a different context. So this is a screenshot that we were sent from some people in Sao Paulo in Brazil, who have started to look at using GIFramework Maps for their needs. So we'd love to grow that community more. And again, I've put a link to our GitHub page on screen now, so please do go across, follow us, like us, reach out to us, and start a discussion if you're interested in knowing more. So moving on to some of our other tools. So I mentioned that we've recently released Mosaic Builder, which is a new plugin for QGIS. This is part of the plugin that we developed internally here for staff to use, and it helps to customize some of the tools that we want the users to use when using QGIS, to try and make the experiences a bit more similar to using things like Dorset Explorer, because we felt that QGIS, amazing tool but very complicated, gives absolutely tons and tons of tools, lots of options, but can be a little bit overwhelming for users that are not that familiar with GIS. So what have we done? We've released this part of the plugin at the moment, and this one adds a toolbar, as you can see on screen. And this allows you to basically derive data from other data sets. We would tend to use the Ordnance Survey base map because we have permission as a council to do so. You need to make sure that you have permission to use the data sets that you're doing, but it is quite common to need to take information from one or more data sets and sort of merge that together to create something different from it. And that's something that in the council we do quite a lot of. And so this toolbar is designed to work from left to right with these buttons and create a user flow that the users can understand easily. So let's give some examples of that. So in its sort of mosaic form, the reason we called it Mosaic Builder was based on the idea of Roman mosaics. So what I've done is I've kind of made it that you can kind of try to pick up the styling as well from the layers that you've picked. So in here I've used two source layers, one that was green, one that was blue, and you can see that I've selected various different features and it's attempted to preserve the styling, which can be quite nice. You can copy them out without merging them, and then it will in theory keep that styling, but if you do merge them together into a single feature, obviously the style will get lost because, you know, at that point you'll have one polygon, so you can't do that. Alternatively, you can set a default layer. So if you that one was set so that you would pick up the feature from whichever layer you had selected at the time. Whereas if you go into the toolbar and set a specific layer, in this case I'm going to use the Ordnance Survey base maps, then at that point the user doesn't need to worry about what layer they've got selected. It will always pick it up from that layer. And this is our most useful case that we would use in the council. And here you can see I've tried to select all of the areas that make up this particular residential area. What I then do is click the merge button to create a single polygon from that, and then the copy button to put it onto my clipboard. And then what I can do is I can then take that and put it into another data set. And again, as I was saying before, all of this needs to be done with permission from the dataset owner. So if you own it, that's great. If you don't, you need to make sure you have permission to derive from that dataset. There's also a delete button on there in case you need to start again. Our users also said that they wanted the ability to add buffers, so circles into this. So here's an example where I've picked up a church and I've kind of just hypothesized that they're sticking some signs on these street corners. So I want 5-meter buffers around each sign on the approach. So here you can see how we can mix and match and create a multi-polygon with multiple different geometry types, which is great. You can download that plugin today, so it's available, and we've released it in the actual QGIS plugin repository. It's called Mosaic Builder, and you can see it on screen. So please do go and have a look at that. As always, there is a tracker there, so if you find issues, please log them on there so that we can see that there's an issue and again, engage with us and let us know what you think. We're excited to say that we've released that. Yeah, sorry, that's just said that. So moving on to some of our other things that we're doing, so Blazor components. We talked about the fact that we wanted to look at using .NET development. One of the most modern and up-to-date forms of that in the Microsoft world is Blazor, which is a kind of component-based framework which uses kind of C# and HTML templating power and sort of Razor to some extent under the hood. This allows us to kind of create components that we can then use in multiple places. So we can then reshare those components onto different pages, use them in multiple apps. And it's a really great way of working with C# development. And so this is something that we really wanted to focus on. And because we're a public sector body, we are encouraged to follow the government design system. Which is sort of in short GDS on here. And so what we've done is we've created a GDS Blazor components library, which allows us to then bring those components into all the different applications. Now I've given an example on screen that's nice and simple. This is a sort of error component. It's not the best when it comes to configuration, but just to say components can be configurable as well. So we've also got, for example, a date component where you can say whether or not the user has to give the full it was on this day, this month, this year, or whether or not they can just say, well, it was on this month and year, for example, so just the month and year. So that's all configurable by just sort of changing a setting when you load it into your page. We released that as a NuGet library, so you can find that on NuGet if you're a public sector worker and you are also trying to use the GDS components library, we would encourage you to go and have a look at that. And it will allow you to bring those in. And so what I'm demonstrating on here is this means it's versioned. So that means that we can see when a project becomes out of date. On the right here, I've got, I think it's on the right, depends on how you're looking, I suppose. There's something else option on here, and that is out of date because I can see that's version 1. Whereas the other two here have got version 1.0.1. And that means that you can upgrade your applications at your own rate. And it means that you can kind of check it out after you've done every update to it to make sure that everything's still working. But basically, it means that we can share those components between the different projects and have a similar look and feel, and helps with accessibility. I've provided a link at the bottom here to the NuGet package where you can find out more about that. And again, as we're saying on all of these, please do reach out to us if you want to be involved. And we'd love more people to get involved with helping us to keep that up to date and ensure that it's fit for purpose. On the abstract that I put for FOSS4G UK in Leeds this year, I did say I was going to talk about the countryside tools. We're not in a position as of yet to actually share too much information on this because they are not yet open source and published. It's still in alpha testing, but basically we did want to at least mention it. So the countryside tools is a application that was created a number of years ago for colleagues in the council, and it primarily helps rangers and officers manage things like stiles and gates, as well as modification orders for rights of way and things like that. So it's basically a countryside asset management tool. Again, the new version that we're working on at the moment, the one that we hope to be able to release, will be C#laser.net. And there's going to be a common theme on that. So if you do want to know more, please reach out to us and let us know. And as always, we're not. It's also worth saying Dorset Council are never going to be a software company. That's not what we're here for. So even if you're a third party on this, please do reach out to us because there's a high chance that people that want to use our tools may need some help deploying it and maintaining it. So I'm sure there'll be opportunities for people in that arena as well. What we're going to do is share them on GitHub, provide basic instructions, but we're not going to be looking to sell this to other people, if you see what I mean. It's very much a sharing it with other councils situation, but it will be down to them to deploy it. So yeah, reach out to us and let us know if you want to know more. Right, coming on to one that I've been more involved with. This is the Flood Online Reporting Tool. This started out in the Geoestic Partnership days as something called SWIM, the Severe Weather Information Management System, and has since become FORT, which is the Flood Online Reporting Tool. I'm not a fan of the acronyms myself, but the project were. This has been used by many local authorities across the southwest as part of some levy funding from the Environment Agency. The people that are using it at any given time changes, but basically we're looking to make this one open source as well. There have been many discussions about whether or not there should be national tools, and other solutions are now being developed, some of which have spun off primarily probably from the Fort project, from people that have maybe left the project. So it's a bit of a mess, but obviously that's outside of our control. We don't want to reinvent the wheel here at Dorset Council, so what we're looking to do is, as I said, turn this one open source and share it, and then if other products have been developed and are competing with that, then people can make up their own mind. But what we're trying to do is share the learning that's happened over the years across the southwest, working out what sorts of questions we need and how to share information between the different flood risk management organisations involved with monitoring flooding, basically. So we can't share the application that is posted out there today and is in use because it's out of date, basically. It was built using older versions of .NET, and we basically don't want to release that. What we want to do is release a version of it that is new, up to date, uses C# Blazor.net, uses the government design system, so the GDS, and is designed to be fit for purpose. We think this is going to be much better because obviously it means then that we are developing it with a different standard. We're developing this now with sharing it in mind, and we think that that will make it a lot easier for people to adopt. And generally, that's a better place to be, I think. So here's a little screenshot of the front screen of our alpha at the moment, and you can see that it just looks like a government website at the moment. So we've got the sort of green buttons that you expect to see, and that will change as the GDS update to new forms and new formats and things like that. The look and feel may change depending on who deploys it, where it gets deployed, but basically it gives you the default questions that we think are the most important ones that need to be asked. So we've split it up into multiple modules because what we worked out was that people may want to do their own thing a bit. So what we thought was that we take this big application that we developed and split it into different modules and make sure those modules can communicate between each other. So we've got the first one we've got is the public reporting module, and this is available open source in alpha today. So you can see it, and it shows the recommended questions. You can see the flow that we're doing. You can see how we're trying to deploy the new government design system methods of not asking people things that they don't need. So we ask you less up front, and then we kind of, as you sort of progress through and more support is available, you get asked more questions. So it's a kind of a transactional flow that we're creating there for the end users. I mentioned that the systems need to talk together. So we've also created a contracts project, which is effectively a library that tells you how your system would need to communicate with us and how you would expect to receive responses from us. So this is basically the definitions of the different objects that you would need to send to and from if you were going to use your own system as the public tool, but still wanted to use the back-end system that I'm going to get to in a minute for the other parts of managing flooding. That's also open source and available as in alpha form. Again, these are going to change massively. They are alphas, but they are there already. So you can already go on GitHub and engage with us and start getting involved on this project if you wish. The report status project is the kind of central single version of the truth tool that underpins the current fort system, and this is sort of like the one that receives the messages about things that have been created on the different systems, tries to work out where they are, and tries to work out, is this a new report, a duplicate report, or is this a different source of information about something we already know about, that kind of information. It's also the tool that we would expect to be used by, say, politicians if they wanted to find out about a flooding event. And then finally, we've got our risk management module, which is the one that is designed for use by people like ourselves as a council, anyone using the lead local flood authority role, basically, or a risk management organisation, maybe even utility companies. And this is the one that would be what people would use to manage reports of flooding and things like that. So doing a Section 19 flood report, for example, helping with property level management tools and various bits and pieces. And so the last two there, you'll notice, are not yet open source, but we hope to make them open source at some point in the not too distant future. That's just because they're still quite new. We're still developing them, and there's a lot of work to be done on this particular project. So there's loads more to come here from Dorset Council. We hope that this talk has shown our commitment at the moment to using open source and the value that we think that that brings, and we hope that you can see how that collaboration really is going to help. We do hope that sharing systems such as the GDS components will lead to greater collaboration with other councils, and by just being part of the community, we think that everybody benefits. So we'd love you to stay in touch. So if you want to, you can look us up on GitHub. The information's on screen, so you can go on there and find out what we're up to, and we'd love to start that conversation. Obviously, this is a recording, so we can't take any questions, and I've also sort of slightly gone on longer, so we're about 25 minutes. But thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation. We hope it's been really informative, and as I say, start a conversation if you want to know more.